I think a lot of the younger bands from that era, there was a bit of the naiveness and like
Youthful
not
kind of.
knowing anything
That's
to,
it.
right. So how do you recreate that, right? Once you've grown up and you've seen different things and now maybe you're more versed in songwriting and like all these things. I think it's hard for a lot of people to maybe tap back into that thing. How's that been for you? How different is it?
I think that's part of the magic of what made made MySpace the sound what it was. We were not trained songwriters. We were just kids that were influenced by each other and like the music of this like music that you could only get from MySpace and like Napster and LimeWire and whatever. you know um so your question was like, how do you tap back into that? um this is something that I've kind of just learned from writing a lot of different kinds of music, is to trust your instincts. And Rick Rubin talks about in the creative act or creative way, whatever. I think it's the creative act. He talks about when you approach a piece of art, like a song that you are about to, I don't know, lay down a vocal on or lay down a riff. Like you can say you got a drum beat and you're going to put a riff down, or you have a song and you're about to lay down vocals. The first time you hit record, you are processing the song in real time and doing what comes naturally. And so I've learned to trust my instinct there, and I'll prepare as much as I can. I'll try and write like some patterns. If I've got something in my head, I'll try and do that. But I usually will go with whatever comes naturally quickly. So both with the composition and with my vocals, like a lot of the stuff, like the first song that we put out, Ancient Call, a lot of it is my first pass. And I when I went to go to do the vocals, like I got about halfway through and then I wrote the rest of the song, and then I hit record at the beginning and then did the entire thing in one take, because it just, whatever needed to go there, whatever I could get in one take was going to be, in my mind, the most natural performance I can deliver live as well. This is something that I learned from just playing in like hardcore bands locally, is that a lot of like hardcore bands, they don't mess around with a ton of vocal layers or backup vocals or doubling. A lot of it is just one single vocal, and it sounds really cool, sounds really raw, and they leave the breaths in there. It's not properly like polished and de-essed. De-essing is, for those who don't know, a process you like a plugin you would put on a vocal chain to remove some of the harshness of the like S's and T's and stuff like that. Yeah, so I left it all in there, all the warts, all the fat, that's been part of my process for trying to recreate some of the magic of the MySpace sound, is to let it breathe a little bit more than like say a modern record would sound. Yeah, I think that it's trying to find a nice balance between like the modern polished recording and the like raw sound of the MySpace days. Like that's been another cool challenge.
That's commendable though, because I think, dude, I don't know for you, but like to me, it's kind of like, because I know maybe it's a bit different for you because you deal with all the other instruments as well. But I can't help myself, like if I've got like the pre-production track and I'm like kind of just playing it, like I'm gonna naturally just my brain's gonna go to try and fit parts, and
Oh
to
yeah,
try and map it
absolutely.
out without, So it's like even if you are kind of going in blind, you're never really going at it blind, right? You've got like these ideas, and sometimes it's even hard to get out of those if you've got something that's been looping in your head.
Absolutely. So I should clarify that when I say trusting your instinct and going with like kind of your first gut reaction to a song. I more so mean like instead of recording it and then like re-recording it and then like doubling things or like chopping up and like trying to
Part
get
by part.
doing it part by part. That's something I really stray away from anymore. I try to capture. So Ancient Call was the only one that I did do in one take. The rest of them, I've been trying like to get as big of chunks as possible, so that and trying to trying to get it right on the first time. Because after you listen back to something, you are analyzing, your first
head.
performance. And a lot of times, and this is something that I've only just learned from trial and error, is that if I record something 5 times, like the same part, I'm constantly gravitating to what I did on the first one, even if it has mistakes, even if I said the wrong word. Sometimes I'll change the lyrics after the fact, because like I said the wrong word, because my ear and my like musical muscle was trying to do what came naturally.
And completely changes the meaning of the song with that one word.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to just kind of like deliver whatever you receive when you're tackling a track, than try and go back and be like, oh no, this could be tighter. This could be such and such better in one way or another.
That's hard though. You gotta learn to let go when you're doing that. Because I think most people aren't wired that way, especially nowadays. When it comes, anyone who's got any experience recording, like that you're kind of like drilled to like go for the perfection and the good take and to chop it up and do all these things, right? And it's hard to, because so much of the music we listen to is like that, and you can hear it, right? But I think we're always striving for that unattainable kind of result that we kind of see the end result of.
It is difficult to do if we're thinking about it. Like you did, I think you gave, first of all, I think you gave a good advice in general. I think it even applies outside of music. Seriously, like in a lot of forms of art, I feel like when you overdo it and you come to a point where it's almost kind of robotic, because you spent so much time kind of piece by piece, every single detail, that at the end you kind of lost the essence of what you had and the energy you had in the first place. So I feel like you just gave a really good advice. I wouldn't say only to vocalists, it applies with everything, but especially vocalists. I tried personally doing little by little, and I noticed that it's never as, I'm losing the pace of just going and doing the take, kind of the energy of the thing altogether, and the moment. You can lose that if you go like word by, or like 2 words by 2. It's not the same. So I feel sometimes it's difficult to let go, because you heard maybe something that you're not sure about, but then you revisit it and you're like, wow, that's actually, it makes it. It's pretty cool. So trusting your instinct.
Sometimes what makes it cool, yeah.
Yes, but sometimes it's difficult to let go, because you're like, your brain is just like, I want to make it like perfect. But sometimes the imperfection is what makes the part cool. So I think you just gave like a really, it's not easy to do, but I think it's a really good advice overall in a lot of art form. I just wanted to commend you on that. I think it's a good advice.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I've learned just like through trial and error. And then when I heard Rick Rubin talk about it on The Creative Act, I was like, oh, he's kind of synthesized this into like this experience that I've had like into words. And it makes so much sense to me. It really speaks to me. And like, I want to go back and say, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with, like a highly produced piece of music. Like, I still really like that too. I just personally lately, I've been gravitating to music that is more raw. And that probably comes from going to hardcore shows, like the hardcore scene here in Columbus, and like listening to hardcore bands. Like, it's been really inspiring to hear music that is got so much human element in it. You feel that, and I don't know. It makes me look at music in a completely different way. It's given it like another, a fresh way to listen.